everybody, and welcome. Welcome to Sizzling in Mississippi on streaming on WeBelieveDigital.com, We Believe Digital Studios here in downtown Jackson. My name is Chris Young, and I'm alongside my co-host, Miss Maati Joan Primm. Good evening, Miss Primm.
Good evening, Chris. Like that jacket.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
No fancy.
Always like it. You always got it going on.
Thank you.
Yeah. So here we are, our last show of 2023.
Yes, indeed.
And we were talking. You reminded. I had blurred it. You reminded
I
it.
never remember anniversaries.
Oh boy, I just walked right into that. But a full year of doing this podcast. And, I was thinking about that a little bit during the week, and I have the craziest question to ask you.
Sure.
I know you love impromptu questions.
Oh, absolutely. Who doesn't?
When I first met you and started coming into your store, I don't know. What I was trying to get to in my thinking was, how much time did we have invested? I mean, minutes here, minutes there, 30-minute conversation. How much time did we invest, so to speak, before you agreed to come on the show? And we've been at this now for a year, every Monday night.
Right.
I mean, what kind of effort did that take, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Well, you would come in, and especially the first time, I think you were there for over an hour, maybe even 2 hours.
I was fascinated with the walls.
Yes. That wall will have you do that, absolutely. Yeah. But, we started talking, and you said, well, what can I do?
Yeah.
And I don't think you were satisfied with my answer. and I don't think you expected my answer. Mm-hmm. And so you looked puzzled and you left.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if I'd ever see you again. And then you came back and you actually did what I suggested. And what it was is that you asked the question, well, what can I do to help?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I said, talk to white people.
Yeah.
I said, because you speak their language.
You think we're doing that with this program?
Talking to white people?
Yeah.
Well, probably the more progressive white person.
Yeah.
Yeah. The more liberal white person.
Okay.
But I think the typical dyed-in-the-woods sons and daughters of the Confederacy can't hear us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if they tune in, they might not have good comments.
Right, yeah, and they probably won't stay.
Just the idea of the two of us sitting beside each other,
right,
working together, discussing issues is too much for some people to abide.
Exactly.
And therein lies the problem, and I guess that's why I was thinking about that, because I just, on my part, I felt like it just took so little effort, and generally you'd agree.
Right.
And then we end up making well, we did say in the beginning we'll do what, maybe 4 or 5 episodes, something like that, to kind of test drive.
Yeah, just try to see.
We've been at it for a year.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's just an example of, I love that question. How important is it? I love to apply that question to different things,
yes,
that are going on. And when I see all the pain and suffering that goes on here in Mississippi, I was reading an article earlier today, but it was written in 2016 about the flag, years before, and it reminded me of that phrase that you have about there's the United,
there is the South.
The South.
Yeah. Now, this is not actually my quote. This is Lyndon Johnson. He said, there's the South, there's the Deep South, and then there's Mississippi.
There you go.
Yeah.
And that article really reminded me.
Yeah.
The author is a native Mississippian, a black man, and he was saying just that, and he had gone into great detail about the flag and how it just had to come down and so forth. So, but it made me think of your comment.
Yeah. You know, when we discuss the flag, I also think about the University of Mississippi, Old Miss as it's called.
Yeah.
And it's an extraordinarily insulting place for me.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems to be a citadel of Confederacy.
Yeah.
You know, with the Confederate statue that's out front, the street in front of the University Gateway was Confederate Drive. I think they may have now at least changed that name.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they have a statue of James Meredith, the first known black person to be enrolled at the University of Mississippi. They have a statue of him, and that's been defaced. And when they first put it up, there was actually a riot. And so I always wonder about changing, like, and remember the mascot was changed,
Mm-hmm.
which was at first Colonel Reb, and then they changed it to a bear, but they kept it as a rebel. And when you see all of these things, it seems to be highly insulting to a person like me, because this is me with fresh eyes. I wasn't always aware of Old Miss. And then, you know, thinking that institution of higher learning would be called Old Miss. So it's either Old Miss either refers to the plantation, the wife of the plantation owner being called Old Miss, or the fact that OLE refers to OLD, Old Mississippi.
Days gone by.
Yeah, which refers again to the Confederacy.
Which they want to keep alive.
Alive and well. Yeah. In fact, the other day I went and I got my little sticker that you put on your license tag.
Okay.
And so when you go in there, they have a number of different license tags that you can get for the state.
Yeah.
And I always, every time I
Zillions.
go in there, I always look to see if they still have the tag that says the Sons of the Confederacy.
Mm.
And it's got, of course, the old flag, the Confederate emblem on it.
Yeah. Did you spot it?
Yep.
I'll be darned. I thought you were going to say Daughters of the Confederacy.
Yeah, they may have that one. I always see like the Sons. But
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, thanks for talking about that. That's that means a lot to me. It kind of, it's really symbolic that you know, when you decide that something's important enough.
Yeah.
You know, I remember getting frustrated here in the building, talking to you know, fellow well, I volunteer here, but I mean people that work here, and it was some activity coming up, and it was about you know, we're going to get some baked goods, and I got told to, you know, I said I'll take care of that. Okay, we'll go to this place up in Fondren. And I said, I know that Campbell's in Fondren. It looks like me up there.
Okay.
So I said, isn't there any black establishments here that bake, that make cakes and cupcakes and all that? And I was told, well, yeah, probably. And I remember getting annoyed by that.
Yeah.
Because now how am I connecting these two? I don't even know. I might have just gone off on a tangent, Joey.
I don't think so.
Well, I just, you know, it just if it's important enough, let's ask that next question. Is there any way that I can buy this 2x4 or Cadillac or cupcakes from a black proprietor, you know, instead of a white one? Is there any way I can support the black community? Because all you got to have is eyeballs and ears to see and hear the horribleness that goes on down here. And so many people come here to Jackson, and I know they have a career. They're working on a career. I don't begrudge them that.
Right.
But the net result is those dollars, they leave Jackson at sundown.
Yes, they do.
And the way I understand it, from the you know, the old guard that I talked to, different old guard. Not like OLE guard.
Yeah, yes.
But these seasoned black men that, I mean, you know, in their 70s and 80s that, you know, have seen so much. And, you know, it just, the dollar's got to turn over about 7 times before we can start to see the benefit of that in our
Right.
neighborhoods.
Right.
And where that inculcate where that becomes really impacting the
Right.
economy.
Right.
Is what I'm trying
Right.
to spit out.
And we're not getting that. We're
Yeah.
not getting that at all. It's hard for it to even turn over once. I avoid some of these places. Like I'll just say the name Brent's Drug
Yeah.
Store.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I was new here, and I walked in there one day looking for a nail file.
Mm-hmm.
And when I walked in, I thought I'd gone through a time tunnel.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
The soda fountain and
Yeah, and the black people.
The black. You mean the black people in the back?
Yeah.
On the
yeah.
other side of the partition where
Right.
the kitchen is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there were some that were servers.
Yeah.
But they had them in these uniforms from the 1960s.
Yeah.
And, they used that place in The Help, in the movie
Yeah.
The Help.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to change a thing.
Yeah.
Because all of that is still what it looks like today.
Yeah.
And I walked in there, and I looked around, and I didn't step any further once I saw what I saw. And I backed out. I didn't even turn around to leave.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
Mm.
But this is,
Yeah.
this is the idea of old Mississippi.
Yeah.
And it's honored here. And I know that there was such a long campaign to get rid of the Confederate emblem in the state flag. But I wasn't one who fought for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because my position is, until the idea and the practices and the philosophies and the culture changes in Mississippi, to just change a flag is really a meaningless gesture. Superficial, and I think that's the reason why it did change, because it was only a superficial gesture. And then what it changed to was no different than the Confederate emblem. It changed to the magnolia flower,
Yeah.
which is the Confederate women's emblem.
Mm.
So,
So to some, no change at all. To others, a bit of a change.
you
To
gotta
some,
be there
maybe
paying
some false
attention.
hopes.
It's false hopes, and it's really, they were going to change it to the Stennis flag,
Mm.
and I just thought that was horrific,
Yeah.
because the granddaughter of John Stennis
Yeah.
designed this flag,
Yeah.
and she said, well, this is, more becoming and a friendlier flag. And I said, if it is, why does it have the name Stennis connected to it?
Right.
A man who was an overt racist and practiced overt policies. He was a U.S. senator,
Yeah.
so therefore he was really able to dig in and be impactful in Mississippi.
And his name all over the buildings down there around the
Yeah.
Spaceplex.
Yeah, and that's named after him. The
got an
Stennis.
aircraft carrier that bears his name.
Yeah,
John C. Stennis.
yeah, awful.
Yep. Well, Maati, I don't know. I got a handful of different stuff, but you had mentioned earlier about this, not specific to Mississippi, but this blackeconomics.org and this executive summary. Do you want to start out talking about that a little bit?
Sure. Today they had a meeting of the Black Summit here in Jackson, Mississippi, and they used the format of the blackeconomics.org, their executive summary.
Okay.
Yeah, as a platform.
Did you get over there?
I did not,
Yeah.
but I was able to go over the executive summary and talk to some people who did attend.
Yeah, it was interesting. I looked it over also, and also that page with the macro view of the often cited black-white gaps that we hear about is very
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah.
Did you want to go into more detail about this?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, this is a summit that convenes different groups and different people with different ideologies to come together and coalesce and really have a consensus on what goals that they have for black people in America. And they surmise that really what they want is a return to greatness, a type of greatness that not often seen here in America due to the resistance to it, but a return to African cultural principles and successes. So with that, we see and we honor people like Mansa Musa, the richest man who ever lived, which we're often told that that's Elon Musk, but it actually isn't.
Right.
Right. It's Mansa Musa. We see that the greatest military general was a black man of Carthage, Hannibal Barca, and a man who commanded the Italian peninsula for 16 years. A man whose strategy is used in war colleges around the country and around the world, but really isn't known because in America, black people don't receive validation for the things that we do. Not only contributions, but actual creations, when things actually came out of Africa. Ideas and inventions and creations and philosophies and cultures that are stolen from. I can't even say borrowed because they're not given back, but ideas that are stolen from Africa, creations that are stolen from Africa, but are never given credit for.
And even today, I mean, you can't. Yeah. What do you hear about Africa if you tune into American news channels?
Right, nothing but let's
war.
Fight starvation,
yes,
war,
yeah.
warlords. But you don't see like areas of all of the beautiful, glistening cities
right.
there and roadways. I mean, I would
wealth and prosperity in large swaths of Africa.
Yes, large swaths. You know, at one time I lived in a building where a gentleman lived in Africa. He was Nigerian, and he would come to America and spend a few months here at a time and then go back home. So when he came to America, he would bring one of his cars. Well, he had a Rolls Royce and had a Bentley. And it was the only one that they allowed to park in the U-shaped driveway of our apartment building. And when he did, people would look, you know, and then they'd get close up, and if it was a white person, and then they would see the license plate and it said Republic of Nigeria, they looked shocked and ashamed and would immediately almost run away.
Got to go tell stories about that.
Yeah.
Not good stories.
Or you're right, exactly, you know, yeah.
So it looks like these people, proceeded with the goals that they've had in place, and general public service,
yes.
defense and public order and safety, economic affairs, environmental. Very broad-based goals that are important to us right here in Jackson.
Right.
Housing and community amenities, health and wellness, recreation, religion. This is going to dovetail into something else I've got later in the show, Maati.
Okay.
Education, social protections.
Right.
I love this list that they wrap up with, and I don't know if there was other things that you want to go into first, or how do you want to do that? We got about a minute left in this segment.
Okay, in the minute, I want to talk about the conclusion. And the conclusion is that all these areas of human interaction benefit not just black people, but benefit society as a whole.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love the vision. This part about the panel believes they made a list of what the panel believes will be Black America's most important achievements over the next 100 years. So sometimes, you just need people that can see above and beyond this stuff, but they mentioned birth a renewal of our minds, which become increasingly Afrocentric with a return to strong family and communal society systems. I've been hearing a lot lately about stronger family, and I'm not hearing it all just from white people that are taking target practice.
Right.
Right. become the primary educators and trainers of our own to meet our own needs.
Right.
Widespread adoption of healthy lifestyles. Observe a mushrooming and deepening of entrepreneurship that enables us to efficiently produce and meet and finance our and others' needs, especially for food, clothing, shelter, energy, transportation, education, etc. The list goes on.
Mm-hmm. Information technology.
Come to fully own and control our own areas of influence.
Right.
That seems to be a real disappointment, and I never want to talk out of turn, but I hear many people talking about the pain we feel the most here is when we have a sphere of influence like city council, board of supervisors,
right.
and there's failures going on, and the
right.
people are not being served.
Right.
And here it is, right there in
right.
their.
But oftentimes, leadership in the Black community is not decided by the Black community.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, whether that's local or national.
It's like the Black cops.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Well, we'll move on out to the end of the first segment. Dip out for a couple of commercials. We'll be right back with you.
Are you dreaming of becoming an entrepreneur, but you're not sure where or how to start? At Entrepreneurs Academy 101, our online program will guide you step by step on how to start and grow your own business. We offer courses such as how to write a business plan, how to create a budget, and so much more. Our online training program is designed for you to learn at your own pace, and there's no set order to complete this program. Because our academy is online, you have the choice to learn with a group, with friends, or individually. Upon completion of the entire curriculum, you will receive a certificate of achievement to acknowledge that you have completed the training needed to become a successful entrepreneur. So enroll today to design the life that you love. Contact your entrepreneur coach, Brenda Myers, at 601-672-0695 or visit our website at www.entrepreneursacademy101.com for more information.
Hey, have you heard about the Accountable Card? It's more than a card. It's a complete mobile banking service that's accountable to all of us. You'll get a no credit check debit card good anywhere Visa is accepted to make purchases, deposits, even get or transfer cash with an FDIC insured bank account managed from our smartphone app. There's even a pre-approved no interest line of credit if you need emergency cash. So why go to the bank when you can have ours in your pocket? Get accountable. Just download our app today.
Welcome back, everybody. Glad you're joining us. Just starting our second 20-minute segment and kind of transitioning a little bit to a connection, very much a connection to the long-term strategic plan for Black America that we were just discussing. But, you know, just last week over at Callaway High School, you know, the city of Jackson, beloved community, focused on Ward 2. And they've put a lot of time and energy into surveying. Let me say that differently. They took a lot of time, and I'm talking a lot of partners here, Maati. You know, of course, the City of Jackson, International Museum of Muslim Cultures, Tougaloo, Wagner Engineering, St. Christopher's Episcopal, Masjid Muhammad Islamic Complex, Working Together Jackson, People's Advocacy Institute, a lot of potent partners.
Okay.
And they did the darndest thing. They went out to listen to the people.
Wonderful. Yes. Isn't that new?
They developed a survey, a 40-question survey.
Okay.
They helped people take it. They did a lot of door-to-door, door knocking and door-to-door, and can I come out and talk to you and follow up? Oh, you're stuck on number 15? Okay. Mm-hmm. You know, be glad to go over that with you, that kind of thing.
Yeah. 40
questions, and they had a call it a PowerPoint with the results
Okay.
that they showed over this Dine and Dialogue at Callaway last Thursday night. And I found it to be really fascinating that so much effort was being put in to listening, to sharing with the people the results of their own feedback via the survey, and then wanting to be open to what is that like to see the final results, because there were 410 surveys received.
Okay.
You know, and so what's that like for the people to, you know, to hear the overall results of that?
Yes.
And then to continue, then they split up in small groups, you know, broken down in the different areas, you know, poverty, education, policing, public safety, civil and human rights, environmental health, very much like the same items.
Yeah.
You know, access to food and nutrition, housing, infrastructure. The thing that killed me the most, so there's a range now. There's a range of percent. So residents in Ward 2, which is predominantly black, predominantly female,
Okay.
2.4 to 35.6% of residents. So in other words, not saying an exact percentage, saying a range,
Okay.
living below the poverty level in the past 12 months. So the high end of that, 36%. The percentage of children less than 18, they didn't give a range. I don't know how they come up with that.
Okay.
They gave a number.
Okay.
You want to guess?
No, I can't imagine.
I couldn't imagine either. And I talk about this stuff. We've talked about this stuff on the show many times.
Sure.
Talk about it on the news break. Percentage of children less than 18 years living below the poverty level is 51.9%.
In Ward 2.
In Ward 2. They went on to say that for older adults, 60 and older, the levels, they go back to a range, not a specific percentage, 9.9 to 55%. Some other things. Over 50% of the respondents to the survey said local and state leadership in Ward 2 was poor. 72% ranked economic development and business entrepreneurship as fair to poor. 50% said that arts, culture, entertainment was poor. They're lacking parks and stuff to do.
Right.
They talked about only having only two grocery stores in Ward 2 when they collect. So talk about fresh fruits and, you know, fresh foods and all.
Right.
But the data started being collected last April.
Okay.
By now,
Yeah.
those two grocery stores are closed. There are no grocery stores in Ward 2.
So we're talking about that area around Bailey Avenue.
Absolutely.
Going north.
Going north up through Northside Drive. I mean, Callaway is right
Okay.
within the district there where this was held at. Kirksky Middle School.
Okay.
You know, so yeah, I forget the square miles that encompass, because the way that those maps are drawn.
Right, nowadays. It's hard to.
But and they talked about the schools. They said 3, but I have to put a caveat here because Angelique Lee was there, the councilwoman from Ward 3, and she came back later and amplified some things. But what they reported in the data was that, and this includes some census data.
But that's not her ward. She's 3, you said, right?
No, she's 2.
Oh, she's 2. Okay.
Yeah, Stokes is 3.
Okay.
Yeah, so 3 of the 7 schools in Ward 2, according to the data that they had pulled when they first did this, were at C or D, suggesting, you know, that access to quality education is an issue. Then they went on to say 42% of respondents rated the criminal justice system in Ward 2 as poor, 32% rated it as fair. and so interesting. Dr. Sandra Melvin narrated the presentation,
Okay.
and she asked, kind of closing, where do we go from here? And here's what she suggested. Definitely want to hear from you. First thing on her, and I don't know if there are any particular number, but coming out of her mouth, forming partnerships with faith-based organizations in Ward 2 to address gaps in availability of resources such as food, childcare, tutoring, and mentoring. Next item, creating mentorship opportunities for youth, which could impact future economic success and could reduce brain drain. You want to get in right now before I finish?
Oh no, I'll wait.
Okay.
It's hard to wait, but I'll wait.
Building trust between law enforcement and the community, and to include human dignity as part of any strategies to improve the ward. Thoughts?
You have to attack poverty. Now, how do you do that? You look at the culture, the lifestyles, the indices of wealthier people.
Mm-hmm.
Wealthier people are better educated, and they're also appropriately educated, or at least more appropriately educated. So, in this situation of abject poverty, because that's really what we're talking about, I believe that the first and the most primary and fundamental attack should be on the education system,
Okay.
on formal education. You have to have a cultural shift. People have to start thinking differently in order to get them from a point of abject poverty into a working class or middle class situation.
Angelique Lee chimed in at the end, and maybe this will change your perception, but she added that she learned a lot from the presentation, but added that as of now, all Ward 2 schools are now A and B except for one, and that's Kirksey Middle School is at a D.
Okay. Well,
Does that help?
no,
Okay.
because they're not being appropriately and adequately educated. Perhaps how they judge the
Standards.
education. Yeah, the standard
They might be
is
doing
off.
A, B, but are they
Yeah.
ready?
Right, but the
That's what you're
standard is
saying?
off.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right. What are you learning?
Right.
Are you learning about yourself? Are you learning how to function in society? Or is it this type of rote learning that is something that they put in a box and it's distributed throughout the country, and it really doesn't appeal or help people to go from a state of poverty into a state of more adequate economics?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not doing that. One thing that I have said over and over that they need to teach is parenting skills.
Mm.
And that needs to start at the 5th grade, and it needs to continue on until they graduate from high school.
Mm-hmm.
They also need to know what is the importance of education. The importance of education is to self-actualize,
Mm-hmm.
so that once I leave this institution, I know who I am, how I fit into society, and how to achieve my life goals.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to have that if you're going to pull people out of poverty.
So we need to find ways to lean more towards, a reality curriculum and preparation more so than state standards.
Exactly.
We need to get those two under a microscope and find out, because there's got to be some overlap right now, but it's obviously not enough.
Not enough. What I'm talking about is educating people to ascend, not to maintain the status quo, especially in Mississippi.
Right.
That's the last thing that we actually need.
I like the way you said that. Ascend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was interesting. The details of that, article coming out later this week in the Mississippi Link. So if you go to the MississippiLink.com, you'll be able to see all the intricate details of that. How we doing for time? 7 minutes on this segment.
But another thing that also needs to be taught is social etiquette. Not just etiquette, but social etiquette. How does a person relate to their environment? So if there is trash on the street, that has to become intolerable. And so we have to figure out ways to clean the streets of litter, clear the streets of litter. Yeah. And to make it absolutely intolerable to litter.
Has anybody down around Fair Street been? I mean, we've talked about some stuff before, so I'm aware, mindful of that.
Okay.
But are you aware of anybody, say, in the last 5 or 6 months, citizens doing any kind of cleanups, anything like that?
Every once in a while, one of the stakeholders of Fair Street, will just get mop and a bucket and rakes and shovels and just go out and do something. That's basically what we do on Fair Street. We just a person will just take it upon themselves to do so.
I remember you telling me something with the company Square. There was some type of opportunity, but apparently it's on hold now or something like that. Wasn't that for a cleanup?
No, they actually did. What they did was they donated money.
Okay.
And they told me, and they said, just use it whichever way you see best. And so at first I thought of doing a cleanup. And then I found that really wasn't going to be impactful for people. So when we had the water crisis, I used it for that. And what I did was I went and I purchased just a large number of personal care, cleansing and personal wipes, and then wipes that they could use, in their homes. And so that way, if you didn't have water, you could maintain a level of cleanliness, because that's the first thing, you know. And it really affects you psychologically and emotionally if you cannot maintain your personal environment. And so that's what I did, and I found that to be the most impactful. That's how I used it.
I asked because I saw something on the news the other night where a white guy and 2 other guys decided that they're longtime Jackson residents, and this is up 55 North and maybe up towards County Line area and stuff, and they seen the trash on the side of the road, and it just, you got TV cameras out there publicizing it.
Yeah.
And the guy's saying he just had enough, so he's out there with, I don't know if it's his kids or a couple of people he knows or whatever, and they're cleaning stuff up. But I noticed it was well publicized. I didn't remember anything down around Fair Street being well publicized.
It's never publicized, but we do it anyway. Yeah. Which is why you see that. I mean, especially when we had the garbage contract crisis, actually, and we weren't having our garbage picked up, and people were just taking bags of garbage and just throwing them on the highways and on the streets of Jackson. It was just a horror show. So, we need to fix things like that psychologically so that people will not do that. Then remember, people were taking their personal garbage and putting it in dumpsters,
going to
commercial dumpsters, and it just,
out at the Metro Center, they were overflowing out.
Yeah.
Just chucking it close to where the dumpster was.
Right, and then after a while, they just gave up doing that and just threw it on the street.
Right.
And we just simply can't do that.
We got 3 minutes left in this segment. I checked as I do probably too frequently, go to that WLBT crime tracker, check the homicide count.
Yeah.
So we're 8 below.
Finally.
Where we were roughly, give or take a week.
Yeah.
But, give or take 6 or 7 days, we're 8 below where we were last year.
Okay.
That means something to you?
It does. It's significant. You know. Yeah, it's a start. It's not a finish, but it's a start. Because we can't keep increasing year over year. We can't.
Yeah. 108 versus 108 right now in Jackson, 108 homicides this calendar year.
Yeah. Still too many, but less than last year to date.
Yeah. What was last week when we had Brother Muhammad here?
Mm-hmm.
Is it Kareem or Karim?
Kareem.
Kareem.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed that show. He's a wonderful guest to have.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful
Yes.
person to speak to.
Absolutely.
Cornucopia of knowledge.
Absolutely.
But I had on the list for last week, but we really never got to it. This concept of there was a study published recently, Maati,
Mm-hmm.
and it was put on NBC Black.
Okay.
And but this is done by the the National Bureau of Economic Research. In June of this year, and the title is How Ex-Confederates Spread Racist Attitudes Far and Wide After the Civil War. The author, someone named Curtis Bunn, who I know nothing about, actually calls it the Confederate diaspora.
Right.
And this whole concept of Confederate ideas, ideologies, belief systems, norms, symbols, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Before the turn of the century, migration going on, and they included in their study outlining that, this migration during and after the Civil War from Confederate South to the West bolstered white supremacy and institutional racism in non-slave states,
Right.
helping create the vast racial disparities that exist today nationwide. And as I was telling you before the show, the study included 60,000 former plantation owners
Yeah.
that left.
Yeah.
But they take all that thinking.
Yeah.
They take
With
all
them.
those attitudes.
Yep.
Take all that with them.
Right.
And, what the author says is this results in structural and systemic racism in almost every walk of life today. Education, housing, jobs. And it cracks me up because, you got so many people out there, so many white people saying, there's no such thing as critical race theory. But yet, here we are now,
Right. Impacted
with
by-
a study by a National Economic Research Service,
Right.
wealth, healthcare, all these things, housing, jobs, continuing to hamper progress of black people.
Right.
The former Confederates continue to transmit norms to their children and non-Southern neighbors, and people pick up on that, shaping racial inequities in labor, housing, policing. It just it says I'll just share the harmful legacies of slavery persist beyond those that experience being slaves, but across generations and across places.
Yes.
It's just it kind of takes the breath out of you to see it, because when you think of what we have here, and even if it was 10%
Yeah.
in California, or I don't know,
Oregon.
okay, fine.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or Maine, or I'm just saying far
Yeah.
away from here.
Right.
Even if it was just 10% of this, is already so unacceptable.
Right.
And
But I mean, you're talking about 60,000 plantation owners.
yeah,
But then you're also talking about people, the sons and daughters of the Confederacy.
right,
You're talking about people who may not have owned a plantation, but still may have held black people in captivity. Maybe they worked at a plantation as an overseer. Maybe they were a soldier of in the Civil War. Maybe they were supporters of a culture because they came out of a culture of brutality. So wherever they go, they take that with them. And these are the same people who have children. And what do they teach them? Same thing. A culture of brutality comes down from generation to generation. It's passed. Whether it's in California or it's in Mississippi, it's the same mentality. And why did these Confederate plantation owners leave places like Mississippi?
Yeah.
Well, they left because they had lost the war, and they could no longer profit off of the blood, sweat, and tears of black people in the same way that they did prior to the war.
Defend for themselves.
Right. They had to have some sense of defending for themselves. So going west meant that the United States government would provide them with land if they would go that way. That was the manifest destiny of the United States, was that it would cover from one coast to the other. And in order to do that, you had to people places like California. And it wasn't enough to respect the culture or the dignity of the indigenous people who were already there. Push them out of the way, steal their assets and their resources, take them for your own, create your own narrative, add water and stir.
You have a way of saying it. I wish my brain had as much as yours does on the subject.
I've been black a lot longer.
Well, that's true.
That helps.
A lot longer. We're going to dip out for a couple commercials, and we'll be right back for our final segment.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, keepers of the knowledge for people who speak the truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippilink.com and click on Home Delivery.
Welcome back to Sizzling in Mississippi, everybody. We've just been talking about this Confederate diaspora, this ignorant thinking, and leaving Mississippi, especially after the Civil War, and moving out west, and how that thinking pervades and everything. And one of the things that this Professor Patrick Testa, economics professor at Tulane, he talked about these white Southerners are the people that would then be taking on work in governance positions.
Right, yeah.
And former slaveholders were even more likely to assume those positions, is what this guy's saying.
Right.
And it makes me think about I've been focused on this article about the black farming, right?
Right.
And the idea that before Mike Espy, before Mike Espy took over as Secretary of Agriculture in 1993, that organization had been run by 24 white men in a row. And then comes Secretary Espy, the first black man, and then after him was a white man. After him was a white woman, and then four more white men since then. So agriculture, black farming.
Right.
I mean,
Always been attacked.
hand in glove.
Yes.
And yet nobody can rise to that levels of leadership. And I think connections here when I
Right.
see stuff like that.
Right, right. And, also, we're talking about a migration of Confederate plantation owners moving to California, but then there's also black people who are moving west as well after we freed ourselves. But they had to deal with patty rollers, people who were hired by the remaining plantation planters and plantation owners who remained in the South, who wanted black people to continue to serve them without compensation and under a brutal system. And they would actually hire white men to go out and recapture black
Right,
people
right.
and drag them back to the South.
Right.
And that was a common occurrence. Reconstruction was really awful on
Brutal.
black people. It was a time of great terrorism. We talk about terrorism today, but nothing has ever equaled
Compared.
what happened here in America as far as capturing black people and dragging us into a type of servitude that lasted for generations.
Trying to think of the name of that movie that was so well depicted in. And it's escaping me right now. About the Underground Railroad.
There's so many.
Yeah.
It seems that most black films are just real triggers of torture and horror for black people to watch. And I've had so many people, especially come in my store, and I'm always playing something, a documentary, a film or something, a discussion, and they say, it's just so hard to watch because there's so much suffering that we have dealt with from generation to generation, and it's just hard to look at. And I'm like, yes, it is, but it's something that we have to deal with and we have to pull ourselves through. And really, it's the reason why a person like Tyler Perry is so popular. There's a lot of criticism about his films, but the thing is that his films lack a sense of suffering that black people have endured. And it just helps to, black people can have joy in watching it, not have to anticipate being whipped and brutalized the way that so many other films, like 12 Years a Slave,
Yeah,
like The Help,
yeah.
any of those kind of films depict.
March of this year, something happened here in Mississippi that we talked about at the time. But here I am bringing it up again.
All right.
From March of 2023. That's the day that the sentencing was conducted for this guy named Axel Cox, this 24-year-old that burnt the cross down in Gulfport.
Yes.
In his front yard with the intention to intimidate the black families nearby and next door. Sentenced by Judge Halil S. Ozerden to 42 months in prison, followed by 3 years supervised release and restitution in the amount of $7,800. 42 months in prison, 3 years supervised release, and $7,800. Violated the Fair Housing Act. That's how they ended up,
Okay.
threatening and racially derogatory language toward his black neighbors, burned a cross to intimidate them. Gulfport, Mississippi, in December 2020. Said he ended up in the end admitting, intended to scare them into moving out of the neighborhood. Abhorrent act that used traditional symbol of hatred and violence to stoke fear and drive a black family out of their home Kristen Clark, who she probably spends more time in Mississippi than D.C. these days.
I know. Her and Ben Crump.
And so, but it just got me thinking. It just got me thinking, Maati. You burn a cross and you get 42 months. You intentionally try to do something to hurt black people,
Right.
to intimidate black people, to plant seed in the minds of black people.
Right.
You get 42 months
Right.
plus 3 years supervised.
Right.
I don't know. That doesn't sound too rough.
Right.
Then $7,800.
That's all.
But yet we have seen here in this last year some cross burnings.
Yes.
It just look a little different.
And lynchings.
Not of course, not
Yeah.
over in Rankin County, right?
Right. Right.
Okay, but I'm thinking about these legislators with these takeovers.
Right.
I can't get my brain to accept that it was allowed to have legislators from outside this area.
Right.
I don't care if they were inside this area,
Right.
but to have white legislators draft legislation that is now law where you willfully, intentionally created a police force,
Yeah.
heading it up by a white appointed police judge named police chief named Bo, who reports to another white guy appointee, who reports to the white guy governor.
Right. Right.
The one with the $1.3 million fitness trainer
Right.
with TANF monies, that
Right.
governor.
Right.
So, I just think about this concept of cross burnings, and I think about, okay, so there's no cross actually burning, but the fear and the utter disregard
Yeah.
for the citizens of this county and the citizens of this city is apparent. There's still some parts of 1020 that are still, and they haven't even let the Department of Justice fully join this thing on the judges.
Right. Yeah. It's insane, and it's horrific the way that an outside politician, right, who is really from suburban Memphis, can come in and subjugate a police department, a city police department, subjugate them, put them in second place, and they have to subordinate to this newly created police force.
I'd love to see the rest of the crime statistics too beyond the homicides, but big picture, I don't feel any different today in Jackson than I did, before they came into power.
Right.
But I just know millions and millions of dollars are being sucked, taxpayer money being sucked out of the coffers, with just no regard whatsoever. The Jackson already has a police force.
Right.
These are not Christian people. These are not people of goodwill.
No.
These are people that loathe black leadership.
Right.
These are people that loathe black people advancing in any way. Yeah. If they can't look down on black people, they're not satisfied.
Right.
The idea, like you and I did, the idea of coming together and sitting down and talking about things, learning I learned so much from you in this last year. Hopefully you learn a couple of things from me anyway, but learning from one another and be able to work together. Yeah. Now, if these people really care, why don't you ask the mayor to set up a summit on policing and invite you?
Right.
And tell them you want to be part of the solution.
Right.
Tell them anybody that's got eyes can see there's big problems here. You obviously need help. Right. What can we do to help you at the state level?
Right. Well, stop stealing. How about that? Money that is appropriated to Jackson doesn't reach Jackson.
Yeah.
And we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah. It seems like it will never end. But we got it. A friend of mine told me earlier tonight. The Saints, the New Orleans Saints were always in last place.
Yes.
They had a fan base, a loyal fan base.
Yes, they did.
They always in last place. But then one day,
yes,
they won the damn Super Bowl.
There you go.
So,
Yeah.
because I was asking him, here we are coming up on the end of the year. We don't have liberty and justice for all.
Yeah.
We didn't get it done this year.
Right.
And he just smiles and tolerates me and told me that little story.
Yeah. Well, it's true one day. It's just a matter of when.
We are coming up on the end of the year.
Yes.
How you feeling about that?
I'm looking forward to 2024.
Are you?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I'm looking forward to some rest somehow. I don't know. I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah.
To get rest, but I am looking forward to being probably halfway between here and Virginia Beach next Monday night.
Okay.
On my way up to see my youngest daughter and my little grandson, who's 3.5. August. Let me tell you what, this guy, he's something else. He's something else. So I can't wait to get up there, visit with them. So that's what I'm really looking forward to most.
Wonderful.
And then the following Monday we've got Christmas Day.
Yes.
And then the following Monday we've got New Year's Day.
And in between the two, we have Kwanzaa.
In between the two, we have Kwanzaa.
Right.
And so, and Hanukkah now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's going on now.
And so that's it for us in 2023.
Yeah.
And we'll be back in 2024, God willing.
Yeah.
We'll be back in 2024, and we'll dig back in and get you some good content, and hopefully get more interactive with our listeners. I think that'll be my goal for next year. It seemed like we had that for a minute, and then we kind of moved away from that a little bit, and just with the technology we had here and didn't have here, and so like to work on that for next year.
All right.
And get more people sitting in between us,
Sure.
guesting. That worked out well. The times that we've done that.
Absolutely. I'd like to see that.
Very informative.
Yeah. I'd also like to see, with Kwanzaa, I'd like to see people celebrate it more here in Mississippi. Oftentimes people think that it's a religious holiday, and it isn't. It's a secular holiday, much in the way that the 4th of July is, or
Sure.
New Year's Day.
Yeah.
And it's a time of that practices and recognizes wonderful principles of unity and self-determination and faith. And these are the type of ideas that we need to concentrate on. These are solutions to problems. And so I'd like to see more people engage in that, and perhaps churches here. I know churches in other parts of the country do celebrate Kwanzaa. But it is, again, not a religious holiday.
Right. Sounds good. We got 40 seconds left. I got one more question I got to ask you.
Sure.
Have you ever met Sabrina Howard?
I don't believe I have.
Artiste extraordinaire. Finally met her.
Okay.
She's the one that drew the picture on the side of the Kofu building, the mural that includes Louise Marshall.
Okay.
How about that?
Oh, you know what? I did meet her, I think. I think she did come by once. I did.
Wonderful woman, sharp as a
Yes.
tack. Watched her the other night at that event we were talking about at Callaway High School. Watched her do a live painting. I mean, like an hour and 30, hour and 40 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
From blank canvas to
Whoa.
vivid, wonderful rendering.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that was really cool.
I think I may have kind of met her in passing. I'm trying to remember, but it seems to me that somehow it was either her or an acquaintance of hers.
Another black treasure in Jackson.
Wonderful.
It was great to meet her.
Yes.
We wish you well, everybody. Wish you well during your whatever holiday season you're involved in, or just trudging the road till you get to the end of this this calendar year. We're really going to look forward to seeing you in January, and I guess that is would be January 8th, Monday, January 8th.
2024.
2024. Man, oh man. So take good care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you back then.